and watch those scenes, like my class. No, I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I am an atomic nuclear physicist. I've worked for 35 years in the field of quantum physics. I've worked in nuclear weapons, nuclear power, research and development in our national laboratories, and environmental cleanup. And sometimes you have to look at the practitioners of atomic physics and ask yourself, are they crazy? Right? Because we all grew up and we understood. We really thought we had it. We got atoms and molecules, and that's it. Everything we see is made up of atoms and molecules. And our artist just told us, that's not exactly true. And she's right. Quantum physics says that we have subatomic particles, and subatomic particles within subatomic particles. And, you know, you could go on with this forever. But the bottom line is that these particles are so tiny that we would never see it. So do you believe in atoms and molecules? Yes, right? Because even though we've never seen one, we theorized it. And the way quantum physics works, and all the rest of us scientists, if we can think of it, then we can devise a way to measure it. And if we can measure it, and we actually detect it, then it actually exists. Does that make sense? Yes. So as a result, we have made great advances in science. I mean, wonderful advances. We have radiation therapy, MRIs and CAT scans, laser technology. We have advances in nuclear power. I mean, we're just moving quickly. And now all of a sudden, we find more information. These subatomic particles, quarks, right? Yes. Well, we have quarks and leptons and neutrinos. I don't know where they get these names from, but these are things that we see only in our fantasy movies. And now we've moved on. The subatomic particles, the ones that are called graviton, gluon, gauge bosons, and you'll see those, some of those titles around here, are all particles that are even smaller. Some particles are so small, by the time they appear, they disappear. But we know they're there because we can measure them. And as a result of that, the future holds all kinds of wonderful things for us. We may be able to communicate instantly instead of slowly through these computers and text messages. Can you imagine something faster than text messaging and emails and phone calls? Because we have all this space. We can move thought back and forth very quickly. We just have to find a way to secure it, because somebody's always trying to get into your stuff, right? Okay, so you relate quantum physics with an art lover, which I am and my husband is. And for me, art and books are like oxygen and water, or chocolate cake and ice cream, something like that. You know what I'm saying? You have to have it everywhere you are, in your home, at work, when you're out. I love restaurants filled with art. And when you look at what you get from art, the amount of energy that you can pull from art, well, here's what I believe as a quantum physicist. That an artist places energy on a canvas. Tremendous amount of energy. 4 days worth of caffeine. Tremendous amount of energy through these broad strokes of color. And somehow, I believe the canvas actually harnesses that energy. And so that when we are visiting those wonderful friends of ours, these pieces of art, we can pull that energy into us. And some of us, it makes us feel more calm and peaceful, and others more energized, more focused. We can handle challenges, great challenges. So an artist gives energy to a canvas, and the canvas gives back energy to us. And quantum physicists believe that in turn, we give off energy, and we change things around us. So now the Higgs particle, the one that we really have just recently discovered. In 1960, a physicist theorized that there was a particle, maybe the smallest of all particles, that make up the universe. And when you have lots of these particles, you create a field, an energy or a force field. Of course, he named it after himself, Higgs field, Higgs particle. This force field is believed to unite all of us. It's believed to unite the whole universe, all the space in the universe. And we have quantum physicists saying this. Now, this is not fantasy. This is quantum physicists who have determined that somehow we're all connected. And so my energy will impact you, and your energy will impact me. And the energy from this canvas will impact me, but I will also change this canvas. Can you imagine that we can continue to do this kind of scientific work to prove whether or not we can move our energy back and forth? We believe we used to a long time ago, before we began to think more like civilized people, before we began to look at things in a 3D world, that deep in us we have energy that we can pull up and use in positive ways. And that is based in quantum physics, it's based in religion, and it's based in art. And we have all of that together today. It is absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm Ed Kosak. I'm the Minister of Unity of Charleston, and just a little bit about myself as well. I had previously been in the Catholic seminary for 9 years, and left that in 1981. I was 3 months shy of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And best decision I ever made. But then I found Unity in 1989, Unity in Chicago. And I began to learn so much about how the two founders of the movement, Mr. and Mrs. Fillmore, back in the late 1800s, they began putting all of this together about spirituality and quantum physics. And when I don't know, when did quantum physics begin to come around?
In the 20s.
In the 20s. So that's right at the time. I mean, they were right there with it. And they began to combine this theory with spirituality. Well, you know, Doris is a perfect example of the mind-body connection. There's that old expression, mind over matter. Well, technically, for me, that's not correct. It's more like mind integrated with matter. Because what I believe is that our thoughts truly do influence what our bodies can do and how they can heal and what we can manifest, and not only in ourselves but in our life. And it all begins with our thoughts. We have an expression, thoughts held in mind produce or tend to produce after their kind. They don't, I'm not ready to say yet that they absolutely produce after their kind, because there's all kinds of things with the mind. There's quantum fluctuations, there's unconscious things going on. But the more we practice this as a race, as individuals, our thoughts working in conjunction with our bodies and with energy, that the more practiced we get, the more we will manifest, as Marjorie was saying, a positive world, something that's healthier and more whole and more free. So that was from the unity perspective, but I also practice a form of Buddhism. And it is a Theravada form of Buddhism, for those of you who know what that is. There's two schools. And in my years of doing that now, and studying it, and from a collection of books called the Tipitaka, the Buddha, when he was under the tree, the Bodhi tree, and he was getting enlightened, well, he got so deep into his meditation that he came in contact with what we now know are subatomic particles. This is 2,600 years ago. And he even came up with a name for it. He called them Kalapas. C-A-L-L-A-P-A-S. Kalapas. He didn't know that they were subatomic particles, but that's what, according to these sacred texts, that's what he was experiencing. That's how far deep into his meditation that he got. And so you have that happening, and then I'm sure other religions have. I consider myself somewhat of a universalist. I am not Christian, I'm not Buddhist, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Hindu. I am in love with God, is how I call myself. That's from Hafiz. I didn't make that one up. I wish I did. But the poet Hafiz made that one up. But so all along the way, all of this is just coming to light now. And it really is my belief, I can't say it as a fact, but as it is my belief that one day the two, science and religion, or spirituality is what it's going to probably look more like, not so much religion, are going to come together. Those of you who attend Unity have probably heard this a million times, but I do believe they're going to come together and they're going to support one another and they're going to explain a lot. And we're going to find that all there really is, quantum physicists and spirituality, is a oneness, is where everything's the same, where, there is way down deep inside space, as Doris was talking about. And it is from that space that we can, when we come from that space, that we can manifest a world that is a better, healthier, more whole, happy, free place to be. And so this is really exciting stuff. And your paintings, Doris, are just wonderful manifestations of that space. And you've proved it. You've proved the mind-body connection in such a way that you cured, I don't know if you consider yourself cured yet or not. I guess it's so many years to be in remission or something. I don't know what all that is. But you've definitely got your doctor wowed. And so this is all very, very exciting. And I love it. And I'm really grateful that you've invited me to be here with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now open the floor to the many questions and the many assertions and so forth and so on that you have. Anyone who would like to ask either any of the three of us anything in particular?
Well, one of the things that I was a tad disappointed in what I heard a while back, which was when Dr. Hawking
Can you speak a little louder?
Dr. Stephen Hawking had pretty much surmised that there was no God, based on his understanding of that. And for me, I just think if you think that far into the science, then you can get it. But being grounded from start to finish, but by opening you up to art, to people, to all of the sources of life, that you see that there really is God everywhere. And my best quote was, since the TV show Big Bang Theory came on, it cracks me up because I actually did some anti-terrorism nuclear nest stuff that you might be familiar with. But it was, God created the Big Bang Theory. That's it.
And you have to stop and ask, when he did that, what was it that banged? What banged during the Big Bang?
All of it.
It's all of it. It's all of it. And that connects with the, I believe, the Buddhist concept of the manvantras, that the Buddha breathes out and the world is created, and then there's the in-breathing at the end when the world goes back and sinks into what could be a black hole, and then another Big Bang, another out-breathing of the Buddha, and then back. And it's amazing to me how everything hooks up together, because you have the Buddhism and you have the quantum physics and you have many other major religions that follow that same manvantara concept. So did you ask a question, or are you expressing...
Well, that was part of it. The other question I had was, of course, the boson detection, that where I believe it's the unified field theory, that it doesn't necessarily clash with Einstein's theory of relativity, and that I believe it showed that matter could, or quarks, or whatever the particles are, could actually travel faster than light. And that anything that happens anywhere in the universe has an effect throughout all, instantaneously. And that's, understanding that has helped me kind of move on a good bit, both rationally as having been science-based, but really discovering more from the arts and different sets of people. I ran across this in the paper an hour, like at 2 o'clock, and I was like, I've got to go see it. And I couldn't be more thrilled.
And the reason you ran across it and the reason we're here is because we were all sending out. And you were responding.
I'll take any I can get.
Do you mind standing up for us? By the way, this is Jonathan Green. He is the curator for this exhibition. We are all, the 2 artists upstairs and myself, we are all his brainchild. Let's give him a round of applause.
I'm sitting here just enthralled with this whole concept of physics, art, religion. And being that the case, isn't it possible that we're dealing with or talking about humanity in terms of science and religion?
Did you say humanity?
Yes.
And if we are, why is it that we have so little of humanity in our communities?
I know. I know. I think that all 3 of us will be able to answer this. Let me just throw this out because mine is going to just go a little ways. Maybe 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, in Washington, D.C., that was known then as the murder capital of the world, transcendental meditation groups around the world, but especially around D.C., meditated for 1 week on peace. And the crime rate was cut by 50% for that entire week. When they stopped their meditation, the crime rate went right back up. There have been experiments with water and crystallization and thoughts. When people think peace, the crystals are beautifully formed. When they think anger and hatred, the crystals are ugly and awful. And that is my initial contribution to why we have this inhumanity in the midst of the possibilities of humanity. Would you two like to?
I'll take a little slight approach, different approach. I think of it as more consciousness than humanity. We're talking about consciousness. And I think in the simpler times, consciousness ruled. We were able to look inside of ourselves for what we needed. But we have so much matter now, right? I mean, we have created so many toys, and we can see it in our next generation. We can't pull them away from the toys to even interact with one another, let alone within themselves, for consciousness. And as we move further and further away from our inner selves, I feel we create more chaos. And in chaos is the results of what we see. We used to talk about the chaos theory, and then someone said it doesn't exist. Well, chaos exists within our consciousness, in my mind. And you can find in communities, especially in the aged-old Oriental communities, you find that sense of peace and humanity, where you will not find, and as we evolve in a civilized world. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, thank you. It's hard to be still. It's hard to be silent. And my belief is that when we learn to get still, why there's not a whole lot of humanity is because Margie was mentioning it, we're caught up in stuff. We're caught up in tchotchkes. We're caught up in this outer experience, and understandably. It's understandable that we are, but it's a great playground for our unhealthy ego, which sees us as all separate. And the healthy ego, not like healthy prideful ego, but a healthy rational ego, knows that we're one, like we've been talking about, And that the best way for us to get into the humanity of our existence is, for me, the silence, is the stillness. And that's hard.